Rom, welcome to the Brand Builders Lab podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
As my audience already know, I don't take pictures on the podcast. I find creators online that I love and then I invite them to be on because I'm just like, if you're doing something online where I'm like, just tell me more, I need to know more, then that's who I want to bring my audience. So I am excited that you're here. I found you on TikTok,
Yeah, yeah.
which we love.
You
And
do.
so there's a few things that we want to talk about today, but for my audience who don't know you, can you give us a bit of a breakdown on who you are, what you do, how you do it?
For sure, 100%. So my name is Rom and I have been a full-time content creator and working in media for the last 3 years. And I always say to people that I started in the space accidentally, but like when I actually sit back and reflect on it, I was coming from a space of I was freshly graduated out of uni. I was in a weird corporate job that I didn't want to be in. And I was like, there's got to be more to it than this. I think going through uni, going through school, there was never anything that I was interested in academically. Like all the things that excited me and interested me, you couldn't put into a school subject or into a university degree. And I think that's what led me to starting out on social media and just what I call, am I allowed to swear on this, by the way?
We don't usually, but I can always
Okay, no,
edit
that's
it
okay. I was going to say, I frick around and find out. Like, that's my motto is just have a go and see what happens. And yeah, I was at my 9 to 5 and I was like, there's got to be more to this. And I started posting on social media and I very quickly realized that content creation and talking and engaging an audience was something I loved to do and I was quite good at. And then from there, my personal brand grew and I grew social media pages and I started working with brands. And then I had other brands and businesses pay me to consult on their social media strategies. And it's been 3 years since I quit my full-time job and I haven't looked back since. So it's been a wild journey. There's been TV in there, radio, podcasts. It's been great. It's been so much fun.
Amazing. I love that. And I
Yeah.
feel like the kind of multi-passionate entrepreneur where you're doing lots of things is just becoming the norm now, where it's not like you have this one career and then that's it. But I love the fact that we get the opportunity to do lots of different things. So
Mhm.
I want to start off with where you started, but was TikTok like, were you on there personally and then you made it a business one? How did that evolve?
So I started out on TikTok personally. I remember, like, I've always loved consuming creators back in the YouTube days when YouTube was the big thing and you followed all these amazing creators. And I remember thinking to myself, I was in high school at the time, I want that to be me. I want to be creating fun videos and connecting with people and meeting people. And I was never confident enough or quick enough to jump onto YouTube and start in that space. But when TikTok came up, I found myself consuming a lot and I was like, these are like 3 second to 3 minute videos. Surely I can just start posting and see what happens. And I actually threw myself into a content coaching program, which was with Leo Skippi, who's one of the biggest creators in the US. He's a little bit controversial, but at the time he was posting just really wholesome content and was just working with other creators. So I jumped in with him and then worked with him for 6 weeks. And then I just went and I just started posting as if I was a full-time creator already. And that was when it snowballed and it grew. And I was like, oh my God, this is bigger than I thought it would be.
I love that. But we have to go back to Leo Skeffy because
Mhm.
for my
Mhm.
audience that don't know him, and he is an acquired taste, but
Mhm.
he's hilarious. He's a huge creator on TikTok now. My understanding is that he owns hotels in Las Vegas.
He might do. Honestly, I wouldn't surprise him. I dipped out of consuming his content when it started to get a little bit hairy. And I was like, I don't know, but I would not be surprised at all if that was the case, to be honest.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people don't realize, but he's actually super, super successful, I think, in
Mm.
the hotel industry. Anyway, I would love to know what were some of your biggest lessons that you learnt when you were in that container?
Yeah, but it was a two-part container. It was run by Leo Skeppi and Carrie Kang. And Carrie Kang at the time was a business owner slash business coach. And she was coaching people on how to grow their spaces themselves in the online space. And Leo was the content coach because they were like, it's all well and good to have a business or a coaching service or whatever. But if you don't know how to sell that to other people or create content to expose yourself, you're going nowhere with that. And it was really interesting in that container. Carrie was talking about the business element, but I was just so drawn to Leo because his message was like, if you understand the skill sets of content creation, you can do anything. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, what your idea is. If you know how to captivate an audience, if you know how to create content, if you know how to be seen, you will be successful whatever you do. And just that message and that inspiration for me, like that just changed my brain chemistry. And I was like, I am locking into content creation and being a creator. And at the time, it was really still, especially in Australia, like we're so behind the times when it comes to content and social media compared to the US and Europe. Like we are so sleepy, but I was just like, it's cringe and it's going to be cringe. And I blocked everybody I knew and I just started posting full bore and then truly never looked back from there.
Yeah, I love that. And
Mhm.
I totally agree as well. Like, we are just in a content universe now. You cannot be a business owner if you're a solopreneur where
Mhm.
you are the product, where you're selling your skills, your expertise, your knowledge, whatever it is. It's just not a nice to have. It
Mm.
is part and parcel of business now as well.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to dive into a little bit around what are the skills, like when it comes to showing up online and finding that confidence
Mhm.
and talking about what it is that you do. What do you think are some of the things that people need to know a little bit more?
You know what's really interesting? And I've had this question a few times, and I think I always come back to the same thing of it doesn't matter what niche you're in, what you're talking about, what your background is, your interests, your passions. It's honestly your ability to communicate and captivate an audience, right? Especially with social media and the nature of it. If you're not capturing people's attention in the first 1, 2, 3 seconds, you're not really going anywhere. So your ability to capture people's audience, hold their attention, articulate yourself in a way that's really easy to listen to and understand. Those are the skills that for me separate the best creators from the ones that I see have great potential but just aren't nailing the thing. Because to me, the easy skills in content creation to learn are the framing, the lighting, the editing. But when it comes to book structuring and saying things that you know are going to hook people in or are going to be of interest, the way that you deliver it, the nuance, tonality, all of that to me is the most interesting part. And even though I'll have conversations with people in real life, and I'm like, if you started posting on social media, you would go off like a frog in a sock because the way you talk is immaculate. I'm so absorbed by you and what you say. And I think that is the biggest thing that I work with a lot of people on is how they say it, being convicted in what they say and actually giving themselves the space to say it. Because everyone always says to me, they're like, oh, but no one's going to care what I have to say. I was like, it's your job to show them why they should care. And that's done in the way that you speak, in the way that you convey yourself. So that's probably the biggest thing that I think separates a great creator from somebody that, is potentially not being seen as much or engaging as much. For sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that a lot of people that I speak to, they get so overwhelmed with what does my hook need to be or
Mm.
like how do I even start? And it is that kind of first 3 seconds I feel that freaks people out.
Truly.
So
It's so intimidating.
how can we be better at that? What were the things that you did to learn that without having to go and download the thousand hooks that people offer? Because I feel like that
Yeah.
is also something that bombards us. Like,
Yeah.
here's the 40 hooks, here's the 1,000 hooks that you need. And it just feels very full on.
It is. And it's honestly robotic a lot of the time too. Like when it comes to hooks, I always break it down into three things because people always think it's the first thing that you say, but you've got a visual hook, which is like the imagery you're using. You've got your verbal hook, which is the first thing that comes out of your mouth. And then you've got your text hook, right? The best way to be able to nail that is look at all three of these things. So picking the most vibrant, colorful, eye-catching movement of the video and having that at the start as your visual hook. Using words that you know are going to trigger people or interest people, like money, love, fat loss, like whatever industry you're in or whatever you're speaking about, just using those buzzwords that people are looking for, even if it's not the entire essence of what you're saying, but just incorporating it enough to get people in without misleading people, unless, of course, that's your intention. Those are the things you need for the old clickbaits.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are the things we need to be looking at in terms of creating a good hook. And it honestly gets to be so simple. I always ask myself is, okay, what is the overall message that I want people to get from this video? And then I think about the people that I'm speaking to, what would they hear that would make them want to watch the video? So for example, for me in creating content, like speaking into the results that people want. So for example, using things like, if you actually want a viral video, this is what I need you to focus on. Like already virality is a huge thing people are interested in. So I'm going to be using those words at the start. Even if I speak about something different or take it in a different direction, at least they're hooked in. If you're talking about wanting to get more sales and more money as a business coach, you need to be using the words of the things that people are looking for. If you want to double your sales in the next 30 days, this is what I need you to look at. And always being value driven in what you're doing after your hook as well. I think what you say after your hook is just as important as what you're saying in the hook. But just thinking about, if you're in the position of your target audience, what do they want to hear from you? Are we what are they looking for? Things that are time dependent? Are we mentioning how quickly you can get a result? Are we mentioning what result you're going to get? Are we mentioning something you might be struggling with? Just like really taking the time to put yourself in the shoes of your audience, because at the end of the day, we're creating content for our audience, not for ourselves. So just really embodying what they're wanting from us to then structure our hooks accordingly.
Awesome. And
Mm.
so when you're creating, because you were saying you built your personal brand, and I know that you've got a couple of TikTok accounts as well.
Yeah.
So how are you thinking about the way in which you're building your communities and audiences? Are they for different audiences? Are they talking about different things?
For me, I think I have a personal TikTok, which is basically what I call my digital diary. It's where I share the things I love and passionate about. And it's like an inner dialogue that I share with the world. And then I've created another TikTok for myself that's more kind of like behind the scenes of business and like my journey with business. Because the thing about my personal brand is I'm very goofy. I'm so non-serious. If we're not laughing, we're not having a good time. I'm very much about high energy, high vibe. But I think the nature of the audience I built with that initially with my personal brand aren't all interested in business and behind the scenes of content creation and media. And so I wanted a more of a dedicated space to be able to share that journey. And it helped me to mentally distinguish between the two. Over here is where I could have fun and be myself. And here is where I can have fun and be myself, but I can also give dedicated information and guidance and whatever to the people that are actually interested in the behind the scenes of what I've built here. Because from my personal brand, I've been paid by brands, been on television, scouted for different media opportunities and all the rest of it. And people get to watch that journey, but not everyone gives a shit about the behind the scenes. But I know that there people are. So it felt more aligned for me to deliver that in a different way, in a more dedicated business behind the scenes element.
And do you find it overwhelming having more than one?
Not really. Not really. If anything, it helps me to distinguish. Like, I think I would be more confused and overwhelmed if I was trying to put it all in the one place. But for me and my Virgo moon brain, if you're into astrology for those reasons, it felt a lot easier for me to distinguish who I'm talking to and what about. And some of it does cross over because some people are genuinely interested in every element of my life, but some people are obviously more focused on the how of what I've done with my personal brand. And then some people just want to watch the entertainment, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, so good. And we were talking about the fact that you've got quite a big following on TikTok. And I see this quite a lot as well, because I'm starting to get suggested, people who I follow on TikTok are now being suggested to me on Instagram, which I find really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like it's just a big ecosystem that is just mashed together now, which is all good. But I find that sometimes people who've got really big followings on TikTok, it doesn't always translate to Instagram. And I'd love to know what you think about the differences and the audience, because I have to say, I think the majority of my audience who are 35 plus are more Instagram girlies and are a little scared of TikTok a lot of the time. And I keep telling them that if they want new eyeballs on what they're doing, TikTok is the place to be. And so I'd love to know how you think about the two platforms and what's worked for you on which platform.
Totally. So this is one of my favorite discussion points because I'm a classic for having, like, I know how to grow a TikTok following with my eyes closed, but Instagram's kind of like my Achilles heel in terms of social media. And I'm only just starting to see results on my Instagram after a lot of trialing and error, but I feel like I'm just currently in the process of learning how to grow that too. But the way that I describe the difference between TikTok and Instagram to my clients, because it's really interesting for me personally, I struggle to grow my Instagram, but the stuff that I've suggested clients, they go away and do, and the next minute they've got a viral reel. And I'm like, how do I like replicate that for myself? I'm just so impressed, but go off queen. But how do I do that? But TikTok, they say, is like being at the pub with your mates. Everyone just chats to everyone. There's no egos. It's very casual. It's very social. Whereas Instagram feels a bit more like a corporate boardroom. It's a lot more cut. It's a lot more polished. You're a little bit more professional in the way that you're showing up with that. Not all the time, but in terms of like your strategy, it's a little bit more polished. Whereas TikTok, you can grow incredible followings just by posting constantly. Like you can post 5 times a day, just your inner monologue, and that would take off and grow. And it feels people consume you like a TV show. Whereas on Instagram, people are consuming you like a more magazine style. It's very curated. It's very intentional with what you're doing. A little bit more aesthetic, and TikTok's a little bit more undone and unpolished. So that's the distinction I feel is between the two. In saying that, I did watch a seminar the other day with Meta saying that they're leaning more towards volume and Instagram being a little bit more undone and a little bit more casual, which is a really interesting shift. And I think that's why I'm just starting to see results now with my Instagram, because by nature, I'm not a clean girl. I'm not organized. I'm not aesthetic. I'm not curated. I just share as I feel. And I think that's starting to resonate with the format that Instagram's taking a little bit more. Paired with Instagram stories feel a little bit more personal and close proximity, whereas you don't really have that level of connection on TikTok. It's a lot more just watch and comment rather than get into conversations in the DMs like you would on Instagram and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel like there has been a real shift on Instagram where I'm seeing a lot more of the just chatting to a friend vibes. So
Mm-hmm.
FaceTime vibes, which is very TikToky. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are starting to do really well. And that's just their content that they're
Mm-hmm.
starting to create. So it's interesting that I'm starting to get TikTok recommendations on Instagram. It's interesting that a lot more unpolished, just in the moment videos seem to be doing well as the highly edited, curated ones. And then on the weekend, I saw Gary Vee did a 12-minute like podcast YouTube video, Instagram as well, and it blew up. And I'm just like, okay, like where is this going now? So I think it's really interesting. I think things are moving quickly. And I think it's just interesting to watch, like different people have different styles. And I think that's the other thing is that some of my clients and some of my audience, they're like, I can't do high quality, highly edited. And I just think there's so many different types of content that does well. I think it's when you find your genuine way of doing it as well that
Totally.
feels a little bit effortless to you. It's not that it doesn't take effort, but when you're in your flow, it just happens more easily.
Truly. And I think now more than ever, people are consuming people. They're not
Mm.
consuming the aesthetic or the vibe. Like people want to know you and your essence. And if you deliver that best from something that's a little bit more uncut and undone, it's going to resonate. You know, if you are naturally an aesthetic, creative eye and you create a little bit more high end, people are still going to enjoy that and resonate with that because it's you and it feels natural. So I definitely think you're on the money there with leaning into what feels good for you and what's natural for you, because more than ever, people can see through inauthenticity and I suppose of smoke and mirrors. So if you're just actually creating from the heart, it just goes so much further than if you're trying to be something else or show up as something that you might not necessarily be on a real human to human level.
Yeah. And it's also just too hard to keep up.
Truly.
Like, like if it's
Truly. Oh,
like,
honestly.
like if you're like, oh my God, this is so hard and it's so much effort. And I have to be honest, like I've done a few where I've done cutting to different B-roll clips and the voiceover. And I have to tell you, to me, I'm just like, oh my God, that's such hard work. But
Mhm.
anyway, like just either doing a B-roll or just speaking to cameras so much easier. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's just finding what works for you for sure. I would love to know because I really like the way that your content looks as well. What's your process? What's your process for creating?
So it's really interesting. Like, I think whether you're growing a personal, like, I see a personal brand as a business just as much as if you were a
Mm,
service based product or you had a physical product. And I think your strategy will change depending on what your goals are with your social media. But I think the general processes are the same. And there's a couple of rules that I sort of go by. Firstly, content creation should be like brushing your teeth. Like, it should be a daily non-negotiable. Not every piece of content needs to be high asset, high production. It can be something as simple as a trending audio or like a 7-second B-roll of you just drinking a coffee with some text over the top. But I think now more than ever, being a consistent presence at the forefront of your community is needed. People want people to plug into and consume frequently and connect with. And you can't do that if you're only showing up here and there. So that's something that I always focus on with my process is just being consistent and making it easy for myself to be consistent. filming the B-rolls. If I have an idea, filming it then and candidly, rather than writing it down and going, oh, I'll film that later. Because especially for me, and big focus on authenticity and being a really transparent creator, is your ideas and your messages have creative shelf life. If something drops in for you, especially if, you're giving advice or you've got an idea or whatever, you have creative shelf life. If you're not using it and using the energy that you have in that moment to deliver and record, it's not going to land the same as if you try and record it a day later or a week later. And especially, I think in moving in business in the online space, you have to move quickly. You can't be procrastinating stuff and putting it off. Getting it done is so much better than having it not done. So I think really focusing on filming when you can and delivering the message in the energy of when it drops in. But then also thinking about, if you have an idea for a video, every idea you can create 3 different ways. So like a message that you might have face to camera, you could then create in a carousel. You're saying the same thing, but your delivery is different. And then you can say the same thing on a B-roll with text over the top. What it does is it like maximizes it's like maximum reward for minimum effort. You're not having to go and reinvent the wheel every time, but the message might land differently for different people in each delivery. So I think just being really smart about the way that you create content, as well as being intentional in how you do it. If you're still in business and you're creating content and you don't have a strategy, you don't have an outcome that you want, and then you're not reverse engineering your strategy to get you there, you're wasting your time. Like, social media should work for you, not you work for it. And that's one of the biggest things I see, especially with business owners, is it's that annoying task you don't want to do, but you have to do it. I hate to say it, but you have to do it. So it's cool. How can we make it work for you rather than you work for it, and actually have you rewarded from it? If you're not getting new clients from it, if you're not getting exposure, if you're not getting opportunities, if you're not getting paid, we need to look at that, because otherwise what's the point in putting all that effort in if you're not being rewarded the way that you should be?
Yeah, 100%. So good.
Mhm.
One of the reasons why I invited you on as well is because I saw you talking about something particular that I'm like, I would love to do more of this myself, or do it at all,
Yeah.
which are brand deals. So you were
Mhm.
talking about the fact that you were posting randomly, and then when you started to post with intention,
Mhm.
that the brand deals started to come through. And I just think this is like another revenue stream that, depending on who you are, I am a fashion girly, I'm a makeup girly. I am so here for all of that as part of my personal brand as well. And so I think that just being open to what else is available is so worthwhile. So I'd love you to share your story of how you've gotten into brand deals and how you're thinking about it and creating from that place now.
When I first started out posting, I was just posting willy-nilly. I didn't really have a strategy. I think I was in a period, there was probably 6 months there where I was like, I just need to develop my skills as a content creator, as a storyteller, as a personality. And during that period, I'd had a few brands reach out here and there wanting to send me some bits and bobs. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, free stuff. This is epic. Amazing. And I would create content and I would post on my socials, and it was this and it was that. And then I think that's when the rise of user generated content and paid brand deals was coming in. And I really started to see that as a possibility for myself, because I was like, if brands wanting to send me free stuff, there's obviously interest in the way that I share content, because otherwise they're not sending me stuff for it to be a dead end. They're sending me stuff because they know I create content, I do a good job of it, and I'm going to share it, and they're going to get a return on that. And so when I started to take my content seriously and I was actually putting effort into my strategy, I was like, you know what? I've got enough proof behind my personal brand now to show that I have an engaged audience. They care about what I'm saying. They trust what I'm saying, because I'm really picky about brands that I do and don't share, or products that I do and don't use. And I'm brutally honest almost sometimes, to the point of potentially deterring some brands in things that I share, because the last thing I ever want people to do is spend money on things that I recommended that they don't love, or that they don't see the value in. A skincare brand that I'd gifted to me before, and I hadn't really heard from them for a while. And then they said, hey, we'd love to send you this new product that we're launching. Do you want to share it? And I thought, I'm just going to charge them a fee, and I'll just take what they say. I'll just shoot my shot. And I said, sure, for $180. And they were like, okay. And I was like, oh, hold on a minute. Okay. Okay, here we go. That I invoiced them, they paid it, I created content, I posted it. And then they came back the next month and they're like, hey, that did really well when we put money behind it. Can you do another one for us? And I said, sure, $200. And they were like, perfect. And I was like, oh, okay, perfect. So then I went away and did it. And from there, that brand, seeing the views and the clicks and the generation. I charged them $180, and then they shared with me that the ad that they ran with my content generated them like $32,000 in revenue.
That's
And I
amazing.
was like, that for me was such a shift in my mindset and the way that I approached and worked with brands from that moment onwards. Cause I was like, I'm actually providing a service. I'm actually giving them material that goes and then makes them money with paid content or other things or whatever it might be. And so that's when I just started pitching stuff willy-nilly. If brands were reaching out, I was like, unless it was something that I really wanted or a small brand that couldn't afford to pay a UGC creator or a content creator, I would just start pitching them numbers, and then the numbers slightly got higher, and then my skill set got better, and it all just snowballed into 4-figure brand deals. Like I did one video that I charged $4,000 for Australia. There's obviously nuance with different brands and what you're offering and all the rest of it. But that to me was just like a brain chemistry moment of, oh, they're not doing me a favor by giving me a free product. I'm actually doing them a huge business favor and giving them a lot of resources to make a lot of money. So I need to be charging accordingly. And that's where my mindset and I suppose my confidence in the brand space grew. But the thing that got me there was creating content with products I already had. I wasn't getting sent stuff at this point, but I was sharing products that I love to use every single day, getting dressed with the brands I love every single day, as if they'd sent me the products. And I didn't say I was sent these or anything, but I was just sharing them, and people were engaging with them and asking questions about what I was wearing, what I was using. And that for me, in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm building social evidence here that I actually have impact on what I'm sharing and what I'm saying. So that when it came time for me to put my big girl pants on, shoot my shot and start charging, that I had ample tangible evidence to be like, you can reject me in terms of payment, but I know for a fact that the way that I share the content I create actually has impact on brands and products. So that's how that kind of came about.
I love that. And I follow a couple. And when I say a couple, there's probably two, when I think about it, two main creators that I follow who talk a bit about UGC and brand deals. And one got paid $70,000 recently. And she's like a budgeting girl. Like
Yes.
she talks about saving money. And she lives in a tiny little apartment with her husband. And she's like, I got paid 70,000. And I'm just like, that's insane to me. It's not like she's all of these luxury goods and she's
Yeah.
got a huge house, or it's not, I think, about status. I think because I think sometimes people think, oh, you've got to have a huge following and maybe a luxurious life and all the rest of it. And I think that there's a few creators that I follow where it's just very down to earth. Like it's very everyday creator kind of thing. And the kind of brand deals that they're getting, I'm just like, that's insane. Like 10, 12, 15, 20 grand for a video.
And you know what's really interesting? In my journey, I work with a lot of influencer agencies and content agencies. And because I'm a nosy Nelly and I just love to make friends and network, I'm always
We love that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm always asking the people that I'm working with like questions about influencers and how they scout and what they're paying and where they're paying. And the general consensus so much of the time is brands are so much more willing to be putting money behind micro creators with highly engaged, die-hard audience members versus the creator that has 200,000 followers, but then it's crickets every time they post. So that's a really great incentive and understanding for, I think, new creators, especially or creators in the space. One of my clients, she only has 3,000 followers on TikTok and maybe 1,000 on Instagram, but she's charging $500 per post because she has an army of committed, engaged people that watch every single piece of content she posts. And so the spend versus return to those brands is going to be so much larger than if they were going to be paying $2,000 to a bigger creator that doesn't necessarily have that same engagement. That's a really interesting thing for people to wrap their heads around, especially in the starting space as well.
And so when you create the videos for the brands, do you post it to your page or do you just give it to them?
Depends. So if it's a UGC setup, then I will be filming, editing, and then giving them the content. They can do what they like with it. They'll post it on their socials. They'll put money behind it. I charge usage now, which I didn't used to. That's something I learned along the way. And I was like, oh, you guys are running that ad for 6 months. You've only paid it to me once, but you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars from it. Maybe I need to have a look at how I'm setting this up here. So that was interesting. But then if it's like a brand, if they're paying me to post on my socials, then that's obviously more because that's like my reputation on the line. And obviously people don't like being sold to, but there's a fine line between being sold to versus like genuinely sharing a product that I love. But it's also really nice that I'm getting paid to do that too, because like it is my job. And yes, people, I think there's a bit of a stigma around paid ads or being paid to promote a product because a lot of people do sell out and they do stuff for cash grabs. And I totally get that. As somebody that's always thought that on the other end, I think that's a big driver. And I suppose thought process for me as I move into that work. And I don't want to be that. I want people to know that even if they see the paid promotion sticker at the bottom, that's genuinely something I use and love outside of them paying me for this specific video. Because 9 times out of 10, it's brands that I've been using for years and they've seen that I've been using them for years and then like, hey, we'd love to pay you for some content. And at that point, I'm like, amazing. My audience knows I've been using you forever. It's actually really nice that you guys want to work with me on a paid basis and recognize my work in this space too. So I guess that's how I see it nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that this is where the personal brand trust comes in as well. So there's a creator, Nat, and she's got Let Me Try Before You Buy, and she's got a massive older female audience where every other night she's doing a live try on for different brands. And she's got like a special that a discount code and everything. But when you really love somebody and you trust them, I actually don't mind being sold to by them because I'm just like, oh my God, like I love what you share or I love what you talk about. And I do trust you. And at the end of the day, if I'm not interested, I just won't buy it. There's nothing there that is forcing me to. But you're definitely more willing to listen, more willing to engage when it is somebody that you feel really connected to. And I guess, it is all the other parts of who you are and what you're doing and where you are and sharing your journey that kind of builds that personal brand and that trust, obviously.
Totally. And I think that's like the background work that a lot of beginner creators don't do. Like you actually do need to do the work to establish your personal brand. There's a lot of entitlement going into it. And I think like you do need to build trust and you need to build rapport and you need social proof. It's just launching a business. You need to give people a reason to trust you and put yourself out there and build that social reputation. Because especially in this day and age with pressures around what you're spending your money on or things being more expensive and cost of living, like the last thing you'd want as a creator is people going and spending money on things you don't actually genuinely
100%.
recommend, because then that just comes back on your personal brand and your recommendations and your authority in the space. So actually taking the time to establish yourself and your brand first before you dive head deep into whatever else is being thrown at you on a brand level, I think is really important.
And the other thing, and it was interesting, I saw a creator yesterday or the other day, who knows? I have no concept of time when I'm watching online. But she was like, I was watching TV and I was sitting in the lounge and I emailed 200 brands that I love. And like basically 180 of them said no, but 20 said yes. And it
Yeah.
was like $20,000, $25,000 worth of brand deals. And it's just shoot your shot. Just
Shoot
put
your shot. I
yourself
saw the
out.
same video. Yeah.
We're obviously
Yeah.
in the same algorithm, but I was
Yeah.
just like, you go, girl, like making things happen for yourself. So the question that I had just back on brand deals is that you said in your video, when I started to have more of a strategy and I increased the quality of like my videos and what I was doing, that's when things shifted. And so can I ask, what do you feel you did shift to make that happen more for yourself?
100%. So I think like really leaning into my strengths as a creator. And I actually posted a video about this earlier today in that my strengths aren't necessarily the most aesthetic, clean, crisp shots. My strengths are the way that I speak, the way that I structure, the way that I word things, and sharing stuff in a really candid, like friends on FaceTime way. So for me, if people are coming to me for like really high end aesthetic, high level videography, photography, that's not my strength. But if you want me to speak about your product really candidly, as if I'm talking to 20,000 of my best friends, that's when you're coming to me. So I really leaned into my strengths, which is like speaking, but also pairing that with really great lighting, making sure that my edits and my cuts are really intentional, using sounds, just really upskilling as a creator as well. I think basic editing and all the rest of it has its place, but when you're providing a service for a brand, it does need to be that next level up. And you don't need to be posting all of that content all the time for yourself. You can just dribble it in here and there just as an online portfolio strategy. But when you are delivering for brands, I always make sure that I'm really going above and beyond in the edits and the cuts and the sounds, just to really make sure that they're getting their money's worth. Because still to this day, even though I'm somewhat established in what I'm doing, I will always over deliver, because every time you do that, they come back again, because you just,
Mm.
they see the value and they see your effort, and that speaks volumes in an industry that is very like cash grab, quick fix. There is a lot of that still. So if you can show up as somebody that actually treats it like a business and a legitimate service, that stands out so much more to brands than if you're just in it for a quick cash grab or a
Mm.
15 minutes of fame moment, I think, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And so, from a business perspective, Rom, what are your revenue streams? What are the things that you do? Obviously, we just talked about brand deals, etc. But what else are
Mhm.
you doing with clients in different ways at the moment?
Yeah. So at this, probably 2 months ago, I burned down my current business to the ground because I was like, I think a lot of my income comes from brands and UGC, and that's really good. Yeah, content for brands, which is really lovely. A lot of it's UGC because I don't like to have a high volume of stuff posted on my page. I prefer to just give it to them and they can go and do what they want with it. But other than that, I had a lot of one-on-one clients, which were founders or content creators or UGC creators, and that was really great. But a one-on-one business strategy is not overly scalable. And I really wanted to step out of a coaching role and more into a mentoring role of, this is what's working for me. And I kept a few clients. Like, I only ever have 4 one-on-one spaces open at a time now. Like, at one point there I had 12 and it was just too much and it was full on. But now I have 4 clients that I handpick, that I sort of test strategies on myself, and with them we figure it out. And then I've created a membership, which is a creator clubhouse, which is basically people can come in, plug into live coaching calls, ask questions. We've got a private podcast, interviewing industry experts like UGC, influencer agencies and other influencers on their journey and what they do and all of that sort of stuff, because I wanted to be able to reach the masses at a more affordable price point. So I think it feels like a risk in terms of business to move out of the high end, high ticket space. And so, like, my product's only $40 a week in terms of membership, which is really low compared to the one-on-one prices I charge. But I wanted it to be really accessible, because especially when it comes to social media, is one of the very few billion-dollar industries that's geared in the favor of women. And like, when social media is set up for us women to succeed. And I'm just so passionate. If you're a woman with something to say and you want to take up space and you want to grow a business and you want to do shit, get on social media and do it. And that's the premise of what I do and what I mentor in. And I wanted to do that on a scale that was accessible for a lot of people and that a lot of people could just plug into and be in. Because I think, especially unless you're in this space, it can feel really daunting. It feels unrealistic. You feel a bit cringe, or people not judge you, but sort of, there's still very much that stigma. So I wanted to create a space that was that for people to plug in, learn, listen to the industry experts, listen to me and the strategies that I'm testing and trialing and what's working, what's not, and what you can take away for your business. And if you want to negotiate with brands, I do workshops on that. And if you want to learn how to be a better UGC creator or a better personal brand, like, we do workshops on that. It feels a scary business move currently, but I've wound down so many of my one-on-ones. And then I'm literally today launched the membership, which is very exciting and very scary, but it feels like the right move for me now, for
Mm.
sure. So
Yeah, and
that's
I think you've just got to go with your intuition on these things as
mm,
well. Like, I think that's the great thing, is that we get the opportunity to have the ebbs and flows. Like, where do I want to go now? What feels good? I want to try and test out as well. So
yeah,
I think that's always an exciting thing to be able to do. And who knows what is going to happen in the
truly.
next 6 or 12 months. Anyway, like, I feel like the space is always moving at such a rapid speed. So, any thoughts on the sale of TikTok and how that's going to impact what's happening on the platform? Or is it too
Mm.
early?
I think if it wasn't such an established platform with so much writing on it, there's more room for that sort of stuff to impact what's happening with it. And I think obviously there'll be things that might change or evolve, but I don't see it being anything too dramatic that it's going to disrupt people that are currently moving with it. There's just too much writing on it. There's too much going with it. Like, I think if it was in the earlier stages, like what Vine was when it shut down and moved on, or Musically when it transitioned to TikTok, I think we're beyond that point now where it can be a radical difference or have too much impact when it's going to disrupt anybody that's just finding their groove or starting in a space. I don't think there's too much cause for alarm at this point at all. So, yeah.
And just to wrap up, what would you say to any of my listeners that are still like sleeping on TikTok?
You start yesterday. Start yesterday. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel weird, especially if you're coming from an Instagram space. But just know that the ability to be seen on TikTok is unbelievable. If you go, and I can guarantee if there's people listening that haven't started on TikTok, if they gave themselves a dedicated 30 days to post at least once a day for 30 days, the results they would see would make them feel so silly for only having started 30 days ago. Like, it is such a platform to initiate change and exposure and opportunity. Just do yourself a favor, put your big girl pants on and just get started. Just get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, and the other thing I want to say about it is I've had so many conversations with my community where they're like, oh my God, Instagram is so hard. So it's like a platform that you're on, it's a platform that you're using. It's not giving you the results that you want as well. It's like staying with a bad boyfriend. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, why would you not test out TikTok?
Yeah.
I think it feels
100%.
scary. I think it feels scary a lot of the time, but I'm just like, if what you're doing is not working the way that you want, there's no reason not to give this a go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you've got nothing to lose. You've got nothing to lose. Just have a crack.
Absolutely. So good. Awesome. Now, we are going to have all of your links in our show notes, but where is the main place that you would like people to probably go and connect with you?
You know what? I'm going to say Instagram because I'm a big voice noter. So if people have questions or they want to have a look at the ins and outs, I would say like my Instagram, which is at Romany's World. But TikTok always as well. I'm yapping all over the place, to be honest. There's multiple places, but all of my users are at Romany's World. So whichever platform you're on, you'll be able to find me there.
Amazing. So good. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I love this chat.
Thanks for having me. It's been so much fun.
So good. Awesome. Make sure you go check out Rom and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.